Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Welcome everybody. How's everybody doing today? Give us a brief second. We're going to get started. Give an opportunity for some people to come into the room, and let's let the people in on X. We want to get started here. Okay. Uh-oh. Wasn't successful. All right, well, we've got some technical difficulties here. Let's get started. I'm sorry, just give us a brief second here. Cute. One second. Okay. All right. Sorry to keep you guys waiting. Mm-hmm. All right, there we are. Okay, everybody. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Welcome, everybody, from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem, and this is the BAK Show, wherein we discuss things which are important to you. And today's show, we're going to be discussing some things that, we can't wait until the bottom falls out to be able to understand certain issues. And we're not going in a very good trajectory. But before we get started with that, we're going to talk about Suweida and the Jordanian agreement along with the Syrian government and why it has major implications for the entire Ummah. But before we start, I'm going to kick this thing off with something that is going to be looked at as a little bit controversial. Look, we're hearing a lot these days about political violence, particularly after Charlie Kirk was killed. And we're hearing a lot about how political violence is a bad thing and so on and so forth. And it is. But I want you guys to listen to former President Barack Obama, and he expresses a lot of the sentiments that Western politicians are parroting. Let's listen to what he has to say about Charlie Kirk's death, and I'd like to discuss it in just a brief minute. So here it is. Okay, let's pause that for a second. One of the central core pillars, I forgot the word exactly that he used, to our democracy, as he put it, was that we would be able to disagree without resorting to violence. Okay, fair enough. But I've got a question for you. Abu Ubaidah, may Allah have mercy on him, who was the Hamas spokesperson, and he was killed just about, this must be about less than 2 weeks ago. Okay, he said that, or Barack Obama said that we should be able to have contentious debates, sometimes very contentious debates, but we shouldn't resort to political violence. Why didn't anybody say anything when Abu Ubaidah was killed? I mean, at the end of the day, why? Was it because he was Muslim? Is that why he's not included in this political violence ban that should be there? Is that why he wasn't included? Or was it because he had his face covered? Okay, he had his face covered because he had an enemy that was trying to kill him. So why wasn't he included in on this ban of political violence? Wasn't that political violence, him being killed? But nobody around the world said anything. Actually, some people celebrated. Why was the killing of Charlie Kirk okay? I'm sorry. Why was the killing of Charlie Kirk not okay, but the killing of Abu Ubaidah was okay? Now, some people are going to jump up and say, wait a minute. Abu Ubaidah was a quote unquote terrorist. He was understood to be a terrorist, so his killing was okay. Okay, but let's pause for a second here. Abu Ubaidah was opposing a government, a regime that is documented by the UN just a few days ago and by other institutions, major institutions around the world, to be carrying out a genocide. And that doesn't automatically mean that Abu Ubaidah was a good guy. It doesn't automatically mean that for Westerners who may not know him. But we have to start taking a look at certain things. What automatically disqualified Abu Ubaidah from the political violence ban that's supposed to be this invisible ban that's there? What excluded him? I want to have that debate with certain people. I want to talk about that. Why shouldn't he be included in on that? Charlie Kirk had some things to say about black people I didn't agree with. He had things to say about Palestinians, basically saying that they were not even a people. All of that contributes to an atmosphere that led to the genocide that was taking place. Charlie Kirk, even though he came across in recent statements as changing slightly his opinions about Israel, but for a long time, he was a big supporter of Israel. He was one that was saying that encouraging Israel. Did that not lead to the killing of many Palestinians? Of course it did. But yet, people are feeling that Charlie Kirk should have been protected under the political violence ban, but Abu Ubaidah didn't deserve that protection. I just wanted to put that out there. I wonder what you guys think about it and all, because I felt for a while that I wanted to mention that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Now, in terms of, now there are some people who are saying that Abu Ubaidah's death was not confirmed, and Hamas did not confirm his death. But, and I hope and I pray to Allah that he's not dead. I pray to Allah that he's not dead. But I would also like to have this debate of why Charlie Kirk should have been protected under this political violence ban, but not Abu Ubaidah. The Palestinians were not implicated as being, or even Hamas was not implicated in any court to be carrying out a genocide. No international court or international body stated that Hamas was carrying out a genocide. They weren't. How come he wasn't protected, Abu Ubaidah? Charlie Kirk was defending Israel, who was implicated, but he's supposed to be to enjoy that ban. I don't get it, brothers and sisters, but maybe you do, so you can help us to understand. All right, everybody, let's get back to the topic in terms of what is being said. Hold on a second. Let's just make sure that one person said something about the audio. Let's just see if anybody else is saying anything. Okay, it looks like, yeah, it looks like everything's okay here. All right, let's move on, brothers and sisters. Let's talk about the Suweida agreement and why it's a big deal. Okay, first of all, the US, Jordan, and Syria came up with an agreement regarding the restive South Syria province, Suweida. Now, Suweida is in the southern part of the country. It borders Jordan. It's right next to Dara and Quneitra. The main dominant force down there in Suweida is the force of Hikmet al-Hajri, who is lock, stock, and barrel with Israel. He openly calls for Suweida to break away from Syria and to become a part of greater Israel. That's important. That's major important. Now, let's get back to the agreement, which was signed by the three parties, the US, Jordan, and Syria. Let's take a look and see what they agreed upon so we can try to figure out why this is important to the entire Ummah. All right, brothers and sisters, let's get started with it. They've got 13 points here. Point number 1. The Syrian government commits to conducting independent investigations into the unfortunate events in Suweida and dealing with those involved according to the law. All right, that sounds good. That sounds really good. But before we even read all of the points, we have to ask ourselves a question. What did the main governing power in Suweida have to say about this agreement? Basically, the statement from the High Legal Committee in Suweida, which is affiliated with Hikmet al-Hajri, that's his organization, he issued a statement on the 16th of September, which was yesterday, and includes the following key points. Check this out, brothers and sisters. 1, the right to self-determination is a legitimate and valid option for the Druze community in Suweida, given decades of marginalization and neglect. That's the first thing he said. So we're looking for agreement with this agreement that was reached between the three parties from al-Hajri. He said something else. The committee condemns the marginalization and lack of representation of Druze interests within the Syrian political system. 3, it asserts that the current crisis in Suweida is driven by the failure of the central government to adequately address local concerns and provide security services. Next, the statement calls for recognition of Druze political rights and autonomy as a necessary response to the ongoing instability. It says, it stresses that any agreement or roadmap must take into account the Druze community's political and social rights and cannot be imposed without their consent. Okay, right there, brothers and sisters, it means one thing. They ain't having it. That means that the agreement, they don't recognize it. That's huge. They were not a part of the agreement. Now, some people might sit there and say, okay, but why give them legitimacy? Okay, they are a power on the ground. And if they don't agree to it, then that means one of two things. Either the United States or the Jordanians are going to put boots on the ground to take those territories away from the Israeli-backed Hikmet al-Hajri, or Syria is going to do it by themselves. Now, the Syrians didn't do it up until now. If they could have taken it militarily, they would have, but they didn't. Let's get back to the agreement and let's just see where the danger lies in this agreement. It says, now, number one, the Syrian government commits to conducting independent investigations into the unfortunate events in Suweida and dealing with those involved according to the law. Number one, Hikmet al-Hajri already says he doesn't even recognize the Syrian government. Do you think he's going to submit to handing over anybody who committed atrocities? And there were atrocities committed on both sides. Is he going to hand them over? No, he's not. Which would mean that the Jordanians and the Americans, because the Jordanians are going to do whatever the Americans tell them to do, are going to impose this on Ahmed al-Shara, the president of Syria, to bring to justice the people who committed atrocities on Ahmed al-Shara's side. And that's a good thing. But what about those who committed atrocities on the Hajri side? They don't have the ability to do it. It's the exact same thing which happened with the collection of weapons by Damascus government, Ahmed al-Shara's government, away from the Bedouin tribes. They collected weapons from them, but they didn't collect it because they said that, oh, well, all the weapons should be handled by the state. Weapons belong to the state and to the state and to the state. That's a good thing. But they didn't take any weapons away from the Druze militia forces, particularly headed by Hikmet al-Hajri. So we have this agreement which will be enforced upon the Sunni Bedouins and the Sunnis in Dara, but it won't be enforceable on Hajri's side. Again, you'd be bringing people to justice on one side and abandoning the people who did atrocities on camera on the other side. It continues. 2, the Syrian government will take legal measures against those proven by evidence to be involved in violations against the civilians. Okay, how's that going to be enforceable on a Hikmet al-Hajri side when he doesn't even recognize the authority of the state of Syria, Damascus, nor does he recognize this agreement? How are you going to do a three-way agreement? You didn't involve the main belligerent. That's by design, brothers and sisters. That's so that they can enforce stuff on Damascus, but not on the other side. So it weakens Damascus, it weakens Ahmed al-Shara's credibility, but not on Hikmet al-Hajri's side. 3, the government, with support from Jordan and the United States, will ensure the continued delivery of humanitarian and medical aid to those affected through UN agencies. Well, now that sounds nice, but why are the Bedouins who are in refugee camps in Dara, and I spoke to them just today before we did this particular broadcast, why are they not receiving all of the same amount of aid that's going to Hikmet al-Hajri? We see convoys of trucks going there. While today, the main humanitarian organization, Liwat, that is in Dara, was bringing aid to the different schools in Dara that were housing the Bedouin Sunnis. They informed them that school is starting and they have to leave. But we see trucks going to the Hikmet al-Hajri side. I don't really understand that. This is not clear to me. And nobody's talking. So I'm just left here to speculate. Next. 4, continue efforts to restore essential services in the governorate with support from Jordan and the United States to ensure necessary funding. Okay, sounds good if it's going to be on both sides. So far, we're not seeing it on both sides. 5, deploy qualified forces to ensure freedom of movement for residents and commerce with support from Jordan and the United States. Well, as long as that doesn't mean boots on the ground from Jordan and the United States, okay, it's a good thing. It's a good thing because we want to have the Druze community and the Sunni Bedouin community to be able to move freely. That's a good thing. Okay, next. 7, exert efforts to release detainees and accelerate exchange processes. That sounds really good, and we want that to actually happened. That's a good thing. Okay. 8, announce plans to rebuild damaged properties with support from Jordan and the United States. Okay. Who's going to pay for it? U.S. is not paying for it, brothers and sisters. Who's going to pay for it? That needs to be addressed. And it's a good thing if it happens on both sides. Next, strengthen national bonds that celebrate diversity and equality and take steps to combat hate speech. Okay, let's say that somebody jumps up and says something against the Druze. Okay, all of a sudden now, they may be held accountable under this particular law. Okay, good. But then again, if somebody from the Druze side jumps up and says something about Sunnis or about joining Israel, which in and of itself could easily be termed as hate speech, because you're talking about seceding from the state. Who's going to hold them accountable? Hijri is controlling all of Suweida. Who's going to hand them over? Once again, it will be enforceable on one side because Syria is a party to the agreement, but not enforceable on the other side. Next, invite Jordan to host delegations from the Suweida community for meetings to achieve reconciliation. Hijri doesn't recognize it. So how's that going to happen? 11, prepare security and administrative arrangements for a transitional phase focusing on building confidence between the certain parties. If one party is not even recognizing it, feeling marginalized, then how are you going to start reconciliation? They had to have been included in on the negotiations, but they weren't. 12, the U.S. will continue its consultations with the Syrian government to reach security understandings with Israel regarding southern Syria. Consultations with the Syrian government to reach security understandings with Israel. I mean, you don't know? Everybody knows. Are we going to start this now? I mean, this actually means nothing. And finally, 13, establish a trilateral mechanism to monitor implementation of the action plan with full respect for Syrian sovereignty. All right, look, brothers and sisters, here's where the issue comes in. All right, what happens is that they team up and they talk about, we're going to talk about, we don't want foreigners, meaning any foreign entity to get involved in the Syrian affairs and such like that. And America will talk about how they need foreigners not to get involved. When we're all talking about Israel, as if they got to go and talk to the Israelis. They do this agreement, say, yo, we got to talk to them. We got to see what's going on or something like that. You're funding them. You're arming them. You're giving political cover to them. How is it that you were not able to enforce all of these things on the Israelis and keep them out of Syrian affairs already? How is it that you were not able to do that? Because they have no intention on doing it. That is American Foreign Policy 101, to act as if America and Israel are two entities when they're not, they're one. And when they work, the Americans will always say, well, we have no control over the Israelis, we'll talk to them. When in reality, when you're funding them, when you're arming them, and now you're coming saying, well, we don't know anything about it, you know, we called Netanyahu, he didn't pick up his phone, or what have you. Brothers and sisters, it's a joke on the Ummah, and the reason why it's important is because all of this will be enforced on Ahmed al-Shara. Nothing will be enforced on Hikmat al-Hajri, who's controlling all of Suweida right now, and therefore all of southern Syria will be lost, and that's a big deal. Okay, let's take a look and see what we've got here. All right. Ahmed says, Salam akhi billah, walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do you see Jordan getting involved militarily against Israel in the near future as Israel continues to expand its borders, or staying a subservient state? Staying a subservient state. Staying a subservient state. Staying a subservient state. Said it 3 times just to make sure that everybody understood it. The Jordanians The Jordanians are good for shooting down rockets that are on their way to Israel, but not so good at shooting down planes on their way to bomb Qatar. So totally throw this out of your mind that the Jordanians are going to join in militarily. They are the third biggest recipient of US aid in the world. After Israel and Egypt, then it's Jordan. Israel, Egypt, and then it's Jordan. Are the Jordanians all of a sudden now going to go against Washington and start a fight or be a part of a fight against the Israelis? It's comedic. That's the situation that we're in. The Jordanians are bought and sold by the Americans. That's the reality of the situation. Now, some people may not like that, but I got to give it to you straight. It's not real, brothers and sisters. Anything else is not real. Next. Assalamu alaikum, brother Bilal. Alaikum salam wa barakatuh. I love you, fi sabilillah. Big hug from Portugal. Oh, habbaka alladhi ahbabtani fi. And I love you guys for the sake of the one whom you love me for. All right, let's see. Okay, AK says, has the death of Abu Ubaidah been confirmed? No, it hasn't been confirmed from Hamas, confirmed from the other side. Allah knows best. He has not appeared since the strikes that were purported to have taken his life. We'll have to wait and see. Okay. Faisal says, Abu Ubaidah is not martyred, brother. Nothing has been confirmed, so I'm not sure why you are mentioning him. I'm mentioning him because I want to hear everybody say that if we're not going to engage in political violence, then those people who are saying, like Obama, that the political violence is a horrible, terrible tragedy, then the political violence against Abu Ubaidah is is a horrible, terrible tragedy. I want to hear him say it now. And if Abu Ubaidah does appear, he should enjoy the same protections that Charlie Kirk should have enjoyed. Now, okay, AI user says, Assalamu alaikum, Bilal. Is Turkey's current administration serious about the condition of Muslims of Syria or elsewhere, or they just care about Turkey's interests? Well, I'm going to say that when Turkey's interests and the interests of the Muslims intersect, they are very concerned about it. After having said that, am I really going to sit here and say that I think that Erdogan doesn't care about the Muslim Ummah? No, I'm not going to say that because I don't believe it. That doesn't mean that I agree with a lot of the stances that he takes, but I'm just not feeling that from him. But when Turkish interests and the Ummah's interests intersect, oh, the fangs and claws come out. When it doesn't really intersect, maybe no fangs and no claws, but that doesn't mean that they don't care about the rest of the Ummah or they want to see something bad happen to the rest of the Ummah. And I hope that nuance is clear. Ali says, bottom line is they, the disbelievers, don't believe the lives of Muslims have any value. Absolutely correct. I mean, Abu Ubaidah is opposing a government which is documented and found by numerous human rights organizations and the United Nations and the ICC. Found that the president and Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, to have been implicated in a genocide. A genocide. We're not talking about they just killed some folks in a genocide, and that's who Abu Ubaidah opposed. But Charlie Kirk actually said that the Palestinians are not even a people. And somehow, some way, Charlie Kirk's killing was considered a bad thing by people who considered Abu Ubaidah's killing to be a good thing. Allah knows best. All righty, let's see. Okay. Okay. We have Omar Rodazai who said, Assalamu alaikum, Akhi Bilal Abdul Kareem. What's up? Can you please give us all the info you have about Abu Zubayr al-Hamawi? Thank you. Brother, if you ask me in our next broadcast, inshallah ta'ala, I'll give you the most up-to-date information. And you deserve that, and I will deliver that to you on our next broadcast so that I can give you the most up-to-date information that I have. Okay? So I hope that will be satisfactory to you, inshallah. Okay. All right, we're going to take one more. Ali says, are there other journalists in Syria talking about these issues? All these recent developments are very concerning. Yes, some of the journalists are talking about these issues, about the addition of music into the curriculum at the expense of Islamic studies being scaled back. So some are talking about it. Maybe some of the bigger journalists aren't. Not sure why. Busy with other things, and maybe it could be. But I think that that's a huge deal, and they should be talking about it. And others are talking about it. So I'm not demonizing anybody. Some are talking about different things and all, and yeah, so that's the situation. All right, last one. Muhammad says, I think there'll be a civil war at some point and Jolani will lose power. I can't imagine the army being happy with this. No, the army is not happy with a lot of this. They're not. But at the same time, nobody wants a civil war. Wallahi, nobody wants a civil war. I don't want to see a civil war. I would like to see Jolani change some of his stances, but to say that, I would like to see a civil war, to see Muslims pointing their guns at the chests of their Muslim brothers, where you see some praying in this masjid and others praying in that masjid, and after they make taslim, to start throwing grenades at one another. No, I would not like to see that. But I do think that Abu Muhammad Jolani's got to change his stances, and I think that a lot of people are seeing that. But to see a war, no, I don't think anybody would want to see that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. All right. Okay, now we did kind of sideline the brothers on X, but we've got two things that we got to mention before we go. One says, Yusuf Yildiz, who says, how are the Syrian people and the jihadist tribes reacting to this agreement? This agreement clearly means the unconditional surrender of Syria's borders and airspace to Israel. Even considering such an agreement is treason. So is there a public reaction to this betrayal or not? Or is there a reaction, but it is being suppressed? Brother, the tribes are livid. They hated this agreement. And they were in the streets, and they were blocking roads today pursuant to this agreement. They are not happy about this agreement at all, because they want, because part of what's mentioned in the agreement is that there would be a police force, not an army, that would be on the borders of Suweida, basically to protect them from the Bedouin tribes coming back to fight. You see how this goes, brothers and sisters? So that's tantamount to handing that territory over. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to put it out there. You know what I'm saying? Eventually somebody's going to probably try to come and try to pop me upside the head with a rock and all. But I gotta tell you, this is a surrender of those territories as I see it, because none of this is going to be enforceable on Hajri. Next, Malcolm X page says, what will it take for Qatar to kick out American troops? Forget it. First of all, they've outsourced their security. So who's going to protect them? Qataris? They're not going to protect their own borders. I don't think that they're even able to do that. Number one. Number two, they won't even be able to use their main weapons, which they got from America, against the Israelis because of their end user agreements that they can't use them against US allies. So they would literally be defenseless. They wouldn't have anybody to protect them. And Gulf Arabs aren't big on doing their own protection. Like the Saudis, they all want to outsource their security to the Americans. And I'll tell you one thing: if I was a Saudi or a Kuwaiti, or I was a Bahraini or a Qatari, I'd be mad. I'd be saying, yo, y'all use billions of our dollars, and 10, 15, 20 years later, we still ain't got no army that can protect us. We still need the Americans. Yeah, Amir Tamim. Yeah, Mohammed bin Salman. Where is this going? Where's it going? How many more billions are you going to use? And at what point are we going to be self-sufficient in terms of our internal security? These are the questions that I think need to be asked, but they're not asked. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. All right, brothers and sisters, we're going to have to lock it off right there. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem. We're going to catch you next round, inshallah ta'ala. All right now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi